Excellent. I'm always a crowd pleaser.
I had some people asking me about it, don't talk to them.
I don't know if you're dangerous.
I don't think rotator cuffs can handle it that well.
Jeez. Seem tired. Just quiet.
Hey Matt, can you give me a sound check?
Yeah, test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Thank you. That works.
Okay.
He's behind home plate at the Yankees. Oh, that's you right now.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. It's been nice and warm. Any response?
From? No. None. I'll call him again tomorrow.
I ran into them a couple times and didn't go.
Yeah.
Oh,
They had a good
Let's see that.
Oh, giving him some more room since Matt's online.
Yeah, crap. You weren't busy in my spot, it's good. Sit around to it. Yeah.
I got 6.
How about you?
Okay. Hold on. Let's go here. Okay. Okay, we should be good. Let me just make sure we're okay. We should be live and good to go whenever you're ready to start.
the 2023 budget workshop for the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District is called to order at 6 o'clock.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the budget workshop. So we started this in the formal process in August. Let you guys know we were going to bring you a draft in September. Brought you a draft in September, gave you opportunity to come to us with any questions. I know Carrie talked to one or two, and I talked to one or two, but if you have any further questions about the current draft that we sent out or that was included in your board packet, now would be the time. I'm going to give you the update on the edits that we changed since you last saw it in September, so I'll run through that here. Carrie did a great job preparing this for me. I'm deciding it's time for me to start farming out some of these memos that I write and have the staff responsible for that area write them up instead of me. So a few edits. I'm not going to read the number. The levy, we updated the levy. It was based on the assessed value from January. It changed significantly. We received the October estimate. That moved it to $1,590,346 based on the October estimate. In our discussions with the county, what we are doing is we have been told to add 15 to 20% to that number because at the beginning of the levy, what we end up capturing is the lower of one of two numbers. One would be what we put in our budget that we send to the county, and the other is the actual assessed value times our rate. So whichever number is lower is what we get. So
Say
if,
the second lower number, please.
I'm sorry, the second,
Say the second
So the first number would be what we put in our budget. The second number is the calculation that the levy is actually calculated on in the actual assessed value as of December 31st of this year. Okay, so our current assessed value calculation for end of September, beginning of October, we would be getting 1.59 million. Okay, if that goes up by 20%, that's the number we put at the top, 1.828. Okay, that's what we will be including in our budget for budgetary purposes and simply to capture that full amount for the initial levy. Because going forward, we're based on 1% over the max amount for the next 4 years, 3 years after next year. Is everybody understanding that?
Yes,
Okay.
although why would we go with 15% and not the 20?
I'm sorry, did I say 15 to 20? I meant 10 to 15. She said 1.7, 1.8, somewhere around there, and we did the calculations and went, okay, that's about 10 to 15%. So that is 15%, you are absolutely correct. I didn't want to go to 20, I felt like 20 was overkill. And we were also, when Carrie went to the levy workshop that they held, a little meeting, one of the gentlemen there said that it was possible that the assessed values could go down between now and December. This is just because of senior rebates and other things that might come in with assessed values. So it could potentially go down, it could potentially go up, it could stay about the same. We don't know yet. But what we're doing with this number, the 15% number, is we're hedging our bet and saying, this would be more than enough to get us through the next, year, and then the next years after that would be based on this amount. Okay, so it is literally what we put in the budget or the actual calculation on the actual assessed value, whichever is lower of the two. Okay, so if assessed values go down and we put 1.828 in our budget, we're going to go get less than 1.5. At December 31st, I believe is what he said.
So there's two what they refer to where you put the figure into your budget. So there's what we would put into this budget, which is like what we really think we're going to be operating with. And then there's what we submit to the assessor, I guess it is.
In the budget narrative.
And in there we would put the higher figure.
Right.
We would put, we hope to get, 1.9 million. But in here, we probably don't want to put that in here.
For our own purposes.
Yeah, because we don't really think we're probably
So-
going to get that. We don't want to budget with that in mind.
So what we don't want to do is inflate a bunch of capital expenses in our budget and say we're going to spend all this money. What we're going to do is we're going to hedge our bet this year with the initial amount that we submit to the county. I've put it in this budget just for, viewing it so we can see.
Just to revisit, so we don't submit our actual budget, we just submit a dollar amount that we're asking.
What we submit is and you will see it in November, is a budget narrative that is based exactly on the items we're talking about today. It's the numbers for 2023. It is a budget narrative, and it goes through each of our budget funds that the county has and what we're budgeting in those, and we send a full document to them that you will sign off on in November that comes from these numbers. So when we put our budget in, it will show right now 1.828898 for levy, plus the timber tax and a couple other things in revenue there that are admin revenue. And then we will show a list through of all the expenses and what areas they are for. That will then all be sent to the county. You guys will sign off on it. That's all the county has. For our purposes, we're probably looking at operationally 1.5, 1.59 seems to me to be reasonable to look at. But again, I would look at this and go, if we get that money come January, we know what we're getting. We go, okay, this is what we're going to end up getting. Then we can look at adding some projects if we need to moving forward some capital projects from 2024 into 2023 if we have the bandwidth to do them. Okay, so that's the levy. Other changes. So the director and business manager salaries, due to a error of calculation, we neglected to account for the possibility of sick leave payouts for both of those, since both of those have accrued enough sick leave, and after, 60 hours, which is 5 years or something like that. I don't remember. There's a calculation we have in our book or personnel manual that says after you've accrued and hold X number of hours in your bank as sick leave, we don't want you to just start using sick leave as vacation time. We want that to be rewarded. And so at the end of the year, we pay out any sick leave above and beyond like 480 hours that you've accrued. We pay that out to you at the end of the year. So that payout had not been included for the director or the business manager, and that's been refactored into these calculations now.
So it's automatic, because the language for the possibility of payout. So
It's
is
a-
it
it-
That's the
automatic or is it
possibility of a
request?
full amount.
That's the possibility of a
So-
full amount, number one, and number two, it's a possibility of the idea that, like, for instance, right, I could get sick next year and use X number of hours of sick time, and then I wouldn't get paid out of it. So it is conceivable that I would get it, it's conceivable that I'll use it, but if I don't use it, we have to account for that possibility. So that's the change there.
From,
Doug, the board packet was missing the programs budget. Can you pull that up and talk to the changes?
can we finish this discussion first, please, Matt?
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kristen.
So when I was looking at the proposed budget, the September version,
Mhm.
it was like a separate line item almost. And yet in this version, it's rolled into the wages, but it is kind of technically a liability, right?
You have a separate line
Because we
item.
might have to, I understand that it's not determined yet, it will be based at the end of the year, but it is a potential liability.
Talking more about accounting for it, where you would account for it.
Yeah, exactly, and so one question is like, during the version that I looked at in September, again, it was
If you
just
pull up the
shown
budget.
differently. And then also, like, looking at just the regular accounting report, it's not a line item in there either. So I'm wondering, like, where do we see this?
Okay, so you're right. So see the notes in column K on the right?
Right.
That's where I had it's not there now, but I had previously called it out there. And then those other columns got in the way of yes. So the notes column is missing for you guys, I see.
Gotcha, okay.
But in that column, I had said, I think. I don't think I separated it.
No, I think it was just a note, whereas it's not a note here, so that could be it. But again, in not seeing that note, it got me thinking about, okay, so, every month, so for example, like right now, we're looking at approving some projects, right? I don't know what kind of a liability we might have for this year for sick leave payout.
So those should already be included in the salary line items for each salary that it's applicable to.
And it will be done in that year.
And that would be done in that year. So if you look up there, the salary 128,678 at the top for executive director includes the total salary plus the total sick time benefit payout. Now, if I use sick time during the year, that goes down, but there's no actual sick time. Like, we don't pay it out of sick time. We pay it out of salary, and it's just sick time use. Like, we just take it off the time. So it's not like we have to account for all sick time, because most sick time is just regular time.
Right.
Okay, so we just have to account for that amount above what, those employees that have reached their max.
So, okay, so where we would see this, every year we'd see it in the projected wage as we're looking at the budget.
Correct.
And then we're gonna see it in the vouchers in December.
Yes, it will come through in December as a extra pay.
Will we see it broken out any other time? That's kind of my,
No, in the vouchers, you would see that it includes that line for the.
For the salary.
For the salary, it would say that it includes sick leave payout if it does. The one thing that when you talk about it being a liability is and this actually came up in our financial compilation with our new CPA, is that, we could potentially have, if someone leaves the district, we may have to pay out vacation time, we may have to pay out, I don't know if we pay sick leave. I don't think so.
I don't know if we do.
I think you get 25%.
For sick leave?
I think so.
Okay.
I'd have to look at it again.
So, what we don't have is that potential liability accounted for anywhere in our budget. And I know, like, the port themselves would be, I was looking at theirs, and it looks like they have a line of like $10,000 to
Pay that out.
do something like that.
So is your sick leave different from your vacation? Is it?
Yes,
So you, okay.
yes.
It's not one PTO bank?
No,
you just-
it is not one PTO bank. Mhm. It is sick leave versus vacation. They accrue at different rates, and sick leave, I don't think the hours ever change like what you accrue.
It's 4
It's
hours per pay period.
4 hours, so I think it's what, 12 days per year, right? 12 days per year, 4 hours per pay period, yeah, 12 days per year. So it doesn't change over time, whereas with your longevity, after 5 years, you get X number more vacation days. After 10 years, you get X number more vacation days per year. So the longer you serve the district, the more vacation you get. The longer you serve the district, you get the same amount of sick leave. However, if you build up the bank, the reward is that you get paid out at the end of the year for any that you don't use that particular year.
So if all positions are eligible for it, why are just the?
If they haven't been here.
business owners?
So some had already been factored in, but it's also you have to have accrued those total hours in order to be eligible. So say, let's see, Sky hasn't gotten there yet because he's only been full-time here for a year, right? So he's only accrued a total of probably what, 60, not even 60 hours, 8, 12, 24. He's accrued probably 40 hours of sick time. Maybe a little bit more. He has to get to 480. Once he gets to 480, we'll factor that into his calculation. Okay, so that's what we look at doing each year with that. But yeah, Carrie's absolutely right. If somebody were to leave the district and we had to pay out, their salary, their hours, that is not a liability we account for. The only thing I would say to counter that we have that would be natural would be if somebody were to leave with longevity like Tom, they're at the top end of their salary scale. If we'd be hiring somebody, we probably wouldn't be hiring somebody like Tom at Tom's rate. So there might be an offset there where they would be at the lower end of the salary scale, and we'd make that up over the rest of that year, or if not, in the next year. So it's not like we'd be sitting there going, oh my God, this person left and now we're screwed. We're out 10 grand and we don't have that money. No, we would make it up within a year, very easily, I would think, with the change in the salary rate going forward. But yes, we could put in a liability line for sick time, whatever is actually allowed to be paid out. I know there's vacation that's paid out, and then sick time, I'm not sure. I think there's a rate where we pay it out at, after this many years, you get paid out at this rate, like 25%, 30%, 40%, or something like that of what's there. So that's something we could put in as a liability. We could do that this year and just calculate it out and go, what would be a good amount? Or we could just say, for a lump sum, if we lose one person and we have to pay out their sick time, we're probably looking at $5,000 max, $10,000 maybe to put in there. I don't know. It depends on who.
Yeah, it was pretty significant when Peggy left.
So if someone leaves, obviously we're not talking about if someone gets fired, if they get fired, they don't get it, right?
You
You get it.
your vacation.
Oh yeah, if you get
Because it's
fired,
earned.
because you've earned that. It's
Is
part.
sick leave as well as the?
I'm not sure about sick
vacation?
leave.
I'm not.
It's a benefit.
It's a benefit, so I don't know that we take that away.
Okay.
I don't know. Let me put it this way. I don't know that it would be worth a lawsuit to fight it.
So.
Mhm.
I think what I heard Tom say is that he believes that if you leave the district, it's paid out at a percentage, not at 100%.
Sick leave
I can
only.
talk
Sick
I-
leave only.
You wanna go
Okay,
grab the
so
book?
when you're staying, when
Mhm.
you're anticipating this payout in 2023, is that at a percentage as well or at 100%?
That's at 100%.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're not paying out, and we're paying out, what would it be, 12 days, max?
I think isn't it 8 or 10?
It might be,
It doesn't feel like it's 12.
it might be 10. It might be it might be like, basically, I thought we accrued 8, I think we,
It's 10 days.
it's 10 days?
I think it's
10 days? I'd have to look. Carrie would know better than I when she puts it together. I usually,
It's an hour on your paycheck, so.
Which part are we talking about right now?
well, so to
I don't
the
know, it's random.
the question of how many hours do we accrue in a year in sick time?
First, I think it's 96 hours.
96 hours.
And the payout percentage if someone were to leave.
Yeah.
Um,
We were talking about this.
Yeah, so it starts at 10%, at over 2 years. And
So
then
you get
20
10, okay, go ahead, sorry.
And then 20% at 4 years, over 4 years. And then 30% at, what's 72?
72 months?
Yeah.
Six years.
Six.
Yeah, 6. And then 97 months, it goes up to 40%.
So it is 12 days per year.
Yes, 12 per year.
Okay.
So it'd be a month.
So yes, we do get, but 40% after how many years?
So 6 years.
Yeah.
For 6 years?
97.
Or
90,
97, that'd be 8 years.
8 years.
All right, any other questions on,
Thank you for explaining that.
Mhm. Any other questions on that? So those are those. Matt, you wanted to pull up,
So
programs?
did I omit? to-
Yeah, programs budget's missing.
And what was put on the website?
and what was, and it was
Yeah.
missing in the fact that it wasn't in the online?
Nope.
Wow, okay.
Sorry, guys.
So yeah, if you could pull it up so we could review it on the screen.
When's the difference?
Yeah, sorry, let me share my screen, Matt.
The only change to the programs is the basketball expense between the September version
I,
and
the
the.
only significant one, yeah.
Sorry, Matt, let me share my screen. That's my bad. Okay, so. Minimize. Okay, so there we go. So the only change here, basketball,
Yeah, basketball expense right there.
right here, youth basketball expense. And what changed here?
It just increased.
We just increased basketball expense to 14.3.
Yeah, Carrie, could you just walk through it from the top this again, because it wasn't available in the packet?
This budget,
Yes, please.
okay. So the only change that was significant, actually starting at the top, I just want to make sure you guys understand that where it says program wages, this is not actually calculated on this page. It's currently under admin. And that we have in practice changed that this year. And so we may want to consider actually putting program wages on the program budget and maintenance wages on the maintenance budget. Anyway, so I just want to make sure you understand that that is present there, but it is not calculated there. It's calculated on the admin budget at this point. And that's,
And so let's go into what our current operation does with that then. So our program salaries are calculated in a different spot where? Like they're calculated with the program's budget, but where is that practice going? Is that in the financial software?
okay, so that has always been grouped with programs in our financial software.
So we've been for years taking that out of the program side and putting it in the admin side as a practice because we wanted to consolidate salaries. This happened before I was here. And do you remember the reason we did that?
No, it was,
Yeah, it was just a previous decision based on accounting principles to account for salaries in that category. Previously, it had been allocated to the individual budget sections. I think both are acceptable ways of doing it. It's just, it was a conscious decision by the board at the time.
Okay, so the thought is to standardize it one way or the other, so that it's either in the accounting software the same way as it's coming through here, so we're not having to adjust it coming out, or we modify these to match the accounting software. Either way, the salaries, I mean, whether we put the salaries in with the programs and the maintenance, they're still gonna be the same salaries. It's just consolidating them in the admin. It's what you guys would prefer to see. Where would you prefer to see them, in admin or in the specific budget? That's up to you. But for right now, they are in admin. We're not gonna change that today. We're gonna just keep moving forward. Going ahead, Carrie, what else?
Okay, so the only thing of significance, so if you just scroll down again back to the basketball expense for the budget, that is, I believe, the only.
So right here?
Yes, the 14, yeah. So that had been previously 13,000. And part of, that's mostly for staffing. For a while, we had, for a couple of reasons, mostly trying to cut costs. We hadn't had a basketball coordinator, but I think we're gonna have more staffing needs now.
Okay.
Whether it's
And what-
referees or gym attendance is gonna be definitely a more requirement than in the past.
Yeah, the increase in what we pay referees per game, and then also being able to expand 2 other grades that we didn't have the previous year.
Now, what's the big jump in contract sports, the 4133 line?
Right here, 5,000.
Yeah, just jumping from 2,000 to 5,000.
So those would be just Challenger Sports and Skyhawks, and it was just based on what the revenue was this year.
Yeah. So we did, this is the column immediately to the left, as you're looking at the screen, the 5637, that's our estimated for 2022. So we said our budget was 2,000, we got 5,637 this year.
Got
So
it.
we're budgeted.
Yeah, all right, so your column F is actual, or projected for 2022 full year?
Correct. That's actual. And this is,
Yeah, I got it.
so that's why we're upping it, because we did that amount this year.
Got it.
And we're still waiting on the Skyhawks check. We know how much it'll be, but we haven't actually received it.
Okay? Anything else
Got
of note, Carrie?
Yeah, or anything that's Sky that you wanna call out since it's senior.
Those were the significant change, that's the only significant change in programs, since you saw it in September.
Oh, I did want to mention that both our year-end budget to actual, projection, I guess, as well as the estimated here, it relies heavily on the basketball league going. And us getting that revenue in this year, which is how it would have been done back in the healthy, normal days. So if that does not occur, then we could be 10,000 in the hole for basketball versus a little bit. So.
Okay?
We'll talk about that in the regular meeting.
Okay, other things. So FICA went up. We did put some FICA and SUI and LNI went up. Changed. Some of that's because of the additional sick time. Some of that's because of referee salaries being added into the basketball. So those things change things.
I'm also expecting some of our unemployment rates to increase, as well as LNI.
Accounting services went from 9,000 to 10,250. Want to talk about that?
The unemployment rates would increase because of activity in our account.
So accounting service, so I increased that, partly because, again, having the new CPA and going through the process of that financial compilation, it showed us some areas where things should have been done a little bit differently, anyways. So I was looking at the possibility of doing a little consulting with them for our annual report to the state auditor. So they've been a good source of information for us. Do things.
So just better ways, not necessarily that we're outside of gap.
I think there were some things that we should have been doing that would have been done correctly.
Interesting, because we did fine on our audit.
They don't
Catch
always,
some things.
they don't
Okay.
always look in every area.
Oh, that's right, I do remember them
Right.
saying that at first.
So, but what we're doing now should fix that. You know, we definitely see the value of this new company that we've contracted with versus the previous one. They just kind of took our stuff and slapped together some sort of report that got us something. This is going to get us much better service, much better response, and much more knowledgeable about government work, which is huge. So this is a big bonus.
Remind me, what's the name of the firm?
That we're using?
Yeah.
Oh, TDJCPA.
They're not Island. They're somewhere else in Washington. We do pretty much everything remote, and they've been great. Election costs. So we went on a little bit of a roller coaster ride here. We started off, I think when we started in September, we were at 45. I can't remember. We started off at one number. I think it was 45,000 because we were looking at, the election in November and we didn't know what the cost was going to be. And we were like, okay, we're going to have we got 2 commissioners being up on the election and probably a bond issue. That's 3 items on an election. This year we were at 35 for one election in February. We tried reaching out to the elections office with Island County, got no response. So finally I just called and talked to somebody there. And they finally got back to me and said, yeah, we'll have somebody email you. They emailed me, said if we had been on they couldn't really tell me because it's so many variables they don't know. But they said if we had been on the primary this August with 3 items, it would have cost our district $12,000. And I was like, okay. So at that point, Carrie and I had already gone and she had come to me and she goes, we don't know if we should put something in because we hadn't heard from us. All right, well, up it to 60 because we had just got the number that said, we were going to be about 1.59. And I was like, okay, we can add another 15,000 to that and cover ourselves. But I think we went back down and I want to say it went back down to 45.
It's 45 now.
Yeah. So we basically, what we did was we said, all right, well, that's all well and good. It could be 12, but it still could be 35. We don't know. So we're going to budget 45, and then we can, kind of tweak that as we go along down the road and shift that number down if we go, okay, as long as we stick in November or August when it's a busy slate and we get other entities on it, makes more sense for us to do that and put it on the ballot and put it then. And then we get, if we can do it for 12,000, that's about the most expensive we were getting. When I first got here, it was about 10 to 12,000.
The other factor that is in play is that we don't really know, especially when we have a November election, we don't really know when we're going to get that bill.
Right.
And
That
so
bill could
we
come
have
in
to
January.
budget for the whole thing for really 2 years worth.
So that's the election story. We already talked about the programs, which is next on the list. Loans, Carrie, you want to talk to the loans and what the changes were there?
Oh, they weren't huge. There was, in the original calculations, it looked like there had only been 3 payments for the Jacobson mower accounted for this year. And as far as I can tell, we would need to pay 4 to do our final payment, and then that'll be paid off. And then it looks like the estimates of those loans, the other two loans that are called out were based on a late payment fee, so those reduced a little bit, so.
The budgeted amounts were based on a late payment fee, okay. Capital projects. So we updated the layout, based on talks with Matt and consultation. So that now shows, let me pull that up. Capital budget, new layout. So now it's been split between the original, which what we had laid out in 2021, and then, where is it split? New programs not in the comp plan. And it's laid out there, so we've got up top is what the 2023, down below is the 2021. And so you can kind of see where we had previously budgeted things and what was going on. And all of that's up here. Existing infrastructure, what we're currently doing, and updated. So we've kind of done that to kind of highlight where things, like what we had previously planned and what we're looking at new. So that's just a layout change. And then, missed. There we go. We upped the concession building roof from 20,000 to 30,000, and we changed park improvements, asphalt improvements, 46,000 to 36,000. So doing less in that and more in the other. Now, we could, depending upon where our levy comes in, increase those for next year, if we so choose.
What does the less represent on the asphalt?
What does the less?
Yeah.
Just doing less projects that particular, we don't have anything specific planned. We would look at where we are next year.
It wasn't talking about the additional overlay.
That would not cover the additional, the overlay was about 100,000, so it's not gonna cover that. So it would be other smaller projects throughout the park.
Aside from the playground areas that we're talking
We're bringing to you in the agenda today. Fuel, we added another $1,000 to fuel. We do anticipate, again, Island County, we have not gotten an updated lease for this building yet. We don't know what that's going to cost. If we don't hear from them soon, I'm just going to increase it by 10 to 15% and put that into the budget, and we'll go from there. But I have reached out to them 3 times now, and I've not heard back from any of them. So
How long is the lease?
it's a year. It's a year lease. We get a year lease, and part of that is we pay for the cleaning service contracted twice a week.
And utilities.
And utilities.
And grounds.
And our guys do the grounds
And garbage.
and the garbage.
It's not a good deal.
Wow,
It's not a good deal.
could be worse. And then we'll have health insurance and dental updates. And then if the board directs us to in the regular meeting, we can move the wages out of admin for program and maintenance and put them in the other budget. But at this point, I'd kind of just recommend going ahead with where they're at, not make a ton of changes if we don't have to. And then we can discuss that maybe in December or January in a meeting and kind of go, how do you want to see this laid out? What's the best way? And then maybe we make an adjustment on our accounting software to shift it there, or we make an adjustment to the budget to shift it. I don't know what's easier.
I don't know.
That's something to look
Yeah,
at.
or if you're okay with the disconnect, with the budget looking one way, and it's really just where it shows up in the lines, right?
It's where you want to see it. Do you want to see it in admin, where all the salaries would be in one place? Or do you want to see it broken out so that the salary for the recreation, because really all we're talking about is the full-time people, right? The part-time salaries for recreation are in recreation. They're a part of the program. Our part-time maintenance guys in the main
They're
admin,
under admin.
they're under admin. So
Current.
we're not even being consistent there. So it's really a question of how we want to see it. Doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. We can just leave it.
It's not that it doesn't matter. Sense that it's in admin,
Okay.
and I understand there's a discrepancy between how we're handling maintenance versus program, but I'm understand the discrepancy.
Yeah,
It
okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So-
I mean, unless the accounting firm comes back with a different recommendation.
Okay. So the only thing I would say to the difference with how we handle maintenance versus how we handle programs is when we assign the part-time salaries and programs, they are assigned to the program they're in. Whereas if we went to maintenance, we would have to put a specific line item in for salary. We couldn't assign it to field turf maintenance or something else. We couldn't assign it to a specific line item. Unless we then had those guys allocate their time out to, and that would be ridiculous. I
worked in the law firm, we're not going to.
I had literally a parks department back in Highland Park. That's how they did it. They had to log their time. I was this long on the fields at this park, and they'd have to log it in.
Yeah, it just sounds like a time suck.
It's a time suck, and it's not worth doing. But that to me is a logical reason to go. Maintenance salaries, part-time should stay in admin, whereas the recreation salaries, if we're doing, that's a direct expense for that program. That is, so when we hire referees for basketball, they're not
That totally makes sense.
that's-
It is
that's-
tied to the
it's
program.
tied to the
It's
program.
not-
Whereas, and then Sky's salary or any other full-time recreation salary would be in the admin because that's going to cover multiple program.
Yeah,
Any other
the-
questions on any of that?
And I would say the argument for changing it would be when we're doing a budget review like this and we want to know what is the percent of, or total dollars or percent that we as a district spend on maintenance, right? Or on programs or on, the leadership, if you will, the admin category. It may be easier to get our mind around, this is the total cost, because if you look at just the maintenance expense line item, that's not everything that it takes to maintain the park, because there's people involved and we're not accounting for them in that total. So to me, it's just, does it make more sense if you want to understand it from the buckets of our budget? Or do you want to just then do the math yourself to say, okay, well, that's, doesn't really, it's not just 180K for maintenance, it's 300K, but I can do the math in my head.
So the only thing I'll just kind of add as a monkey wrench is that would give you a much better, clearer picture. But again, we would have items that wouldn't be in there because health insurance, life insurance, dental, retirement, those items would still be in the admin budget. So we would have to split all of that out for each employee to get a complete down to the dollar of what each employee cost. But yeah, it would be a much more accurate picture of what maintenance cost us and a much more accurate picture of what recreation programs cost us. And a return on investment for those. So.
Yeah, and as Doug said, I would not propose changing anything with the way we're accounting for this 2023 budget, but to me, it would be a change if we made one at the year end going forward, starting January 1st of 2023.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
On 1204, the health insurance, that big jump is since we're adding spouses.
Spouses and dependents, yes.
Oh, yeah, and part of the loss of that notes column is it had a note about how much of that was employees versus
In the notes.
dependents, yeah. So we're on the right.
6 dependents at 80%, 64,500 is employees.
Thanks.
Speaking of percentages, and I know this is already a crazy large spreadsheet and the notes are gone, but could we add a percentage column?
Percentage of,
Just the overall, like not the individual admin budget and maintenance and programs, but for the overall budget projection just for the year in question that we're deciding.
do you mean like that?
On our monthly report.
Yeah,
Percent change?
no, not a percent change, percent overall. percent.
Oh, so when you're talking, are you talking about this, or are you talking about percent change year to year? You're talking,
Just what you were just talking about, so that we can understand what percent is maintenance, what percent.
Oh, I see.
oh, a percent of total budget.
Total, I see,
Correct.
like
Okay,
for
so,
each category.
Yeah.
wow,
I,
I mean, that one would be a. Yeah, we could get rid of the percent change.
well, I mean, the percent change can be hidden, and we can add another column in that's not. It just says percent of total budget. So, I mean, the levy would be 99.9% of our revenue, and,
right.
you know, so that's kind of what we
Not
were
so
looking,
much for the revenue,
but for the expense.
for the expenses.
Yeah. We could do that. That's pretty easy to do. Just gonna go close the park. Any other questions on budget? Things that you'd like to see us work through, or questions you have about where we're at?
And I'm sorry, I apologize for missing the program
Yeah.
budget on the draft. Yeah, sorry, I might let that behind.
No, we're gonna probably stay on this. Any other questions? Okay, so what the process is now is Carrie and I will take this back. We might make a few minor changes like we talked about at the end of that document there. We will put together the, what we call what is the budget narrative, which includes this is the document we send to the county. So you will see that 1.828 in there. You will see probably something on the lease for the office building going up from this year, because I think we just plugged this year's number in and stayed with it. Health insurance and dental, we hope to get actual numbers as to what those will be, because we are restarting everything as of January 1. So we're making our turnover be January 1 going forward. So then when we get the numbers every year, it'll be about November, and we'll plug them in and move forward. But we've got an estimate already worked in. So we will update that. That might change slightly. It shouldn't change much, I don't believe, but
It's gonna probably go down.
Right, so have you received your information?
we received information in June when we renewed, and we talked to her. What, did she give us new numbers? We haven't received any numbers yet.
Well, that was really for these 6 months until, remember,
Right.
because we're changing,
So it should go down, is what we're thinking.
I suspect it will, down from what I budgeted,
Down from what was budgeted,
unless,
unless there's a really weird thing happen. But yes, we should get a lower number. And that should come in November. Shouldn't have anything there, but that we will then bring that final document to you guys in November. There will be the budget hearing, which you guys should have all had your say. The budget hearing is really, if anyone from the public wants to come and say, make a comment on our budget. And we need to have our budget approved by the end of November and into the county. So our budget hearing is before, just like this, at 6 o'clock on the board meeting night. We do a budget hearing. If nobody speaks, we close the budget hearing and move right into the board meeting, and there will be an item on the agenda to approve the 2023 budget. And then we will take that, and you guys will hopefully approve it, and we will take it to the county. Okay, everybody good with all that? Good. That's all I have for the budget workshop.
All right.
I did not say,
Anyone else
there was no
before I
changes, I
adjourn?
didn't say anything.
All right, the budget workshop is adjourned at 6:46. Call the regular meeting for the October 2022 South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting to order at 6:46. Is there anyone for public comment?
I believe, I know John Bush was on the line online. John, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me adequately?
We can hear you.
Okay, the commission members can?
Yes?
Yes.
Very good. Thanks very much. It's been a while since I last saw you, and it's good to know you are here, presumably in good health and spirits, though I can't see you online. I'm ill and have been traveling and ill for a couple of weeks, otherwise I would be there in person. You know that I hold the commission in high regard and often express my gratitude for you, your mission, and your achievements in the programs you offer and the stewardship of the resources you steward. My comment this evening regards the appearance on this evening's agenda of an expansion of a new trail in Trustlands Trails. Unfortunately, as a result of my travel and illness, I've not been able to walk the flagged trail. However, this is the first mention of this trail, of which I am aware, and in this regard, and without hearing the merits and consequences of this trail, and although I would like to speak in favor of it, absent hearing a full discussion on it, I cannot form a well-founded and responsible opinion. Thus, my suggestion for a goodwill remedy is that you either reopen public comment after your discussion and review of this item tonight and before you vote on it so that public comment can achieve its purpose and deliver to you its benefit. I believe this is within the discretion of the chair to do so. An alternative is to discuss this item this evening and defer your vote until after there is an opportunity for public comment at the next commission meeting. In my opinion, to do otherwise forgoes the ability for the commission to receive public comment, and it would place the cart so far in front of the horse that unforeseen and unintended consequences could diminish the good outcome and compromise your best accomplishment of your mission, for which you are otherwise respected and for which so many are grateful. This concludes my comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, has every commissioner had an opportunity
Well,
to?
I do have one email that I did receive on this. And I just wanted to touch base on that. I received an email today from Devin Gates. They had received the letter and they wanted to comment. They are not able to attend the meeting, but oops, sorry, wrong clicker. Or go to the trail system to find the flag trail. We would like to be able to provide informed feedback when possible to do so on short notice. They are pro trails, but provided additions do not interfere with the safety and the privacy of those residents whose property borders the trail system. We already experience periodic noise, barking dogs, explosions, firecrackers, or guns. I don't know what those would be, but I don't doubt that they experience them. Unwanted trail hikers and their dogs who wander off the trails and find themselves in our backyard where our 10-year-old daughter plays. We support any expansion that does not compromise or negatively impact the quality of life and peace of mind for the residences that border the trail system, which supersedes the development of trails by several decades. We sincerely hope a win-win solution is found for the sake of homeowners as well as for those who come to the trails and enjoy the beauty and serenity they offer. A map of the current trails and proposed expansion would allow us to develop informed feedback and would be greatly appreciated. So I did respond, and I did send them the two photos that we have today that we'll look at. Oops, again, I used the wrong buttons. I said the attached are two overheads of the site. Proposed trail would run from Raven Ridge to the parking lot in the northeast corner of the property. It is shown on the second overhead in light blue with the ADA loop trail in the same picture in light blue. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And they responded to me, thank you. If we are deciphering this correctly, this proposed expansion would have zero effect on the Pioneer Park residents and appears to be on the opposite side of the park from our properties. If this is the case, we have no concerns or additional feedback. Also, note that we really appreciate the SW Parks and Rec's efforts to keep us informed and allow for input on this matter. I then did follow up and said, that is correct. If you would like, I can add your name to the email list for trails, and you can get notifications sooner of any proposed changes. And they responded to add their email. So they should get those notifications even sooner. US mail is probably not the only way that, or the quickest way to get information out there. Once it was explained to them, they were on board, but I did want to share that that was the only email that I received on this. No other comments were made. And it was emailed out to our entire trails email list, as well as I had letters sent to every homeowner that had a parcel that borders that property. And I went through the database again and double checked to make sure I had the correct name and address for each property owner. So
And it did go to the residents on Crowell as well.
Correct, both sides,
Okay, thank you.
both sides. Correct. So that's all the public comment I had. I just wanted to make sure that that got in there.
Thank you. Can that email chain be forwarded to us?
I will forward that to you. Yes, after the meeting, I will forward that out.
Right, no further public comment. We'll
None
move
for
on
me.
to the approval of the minutes. Has every commissioner had a chance to review the September? Are there any questions or changes? Right, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the September 21st.
I will second that motion.
It has. Just lost my words. It has
Been moved and
It's
seconded.
been moved and seconded, thank you. It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 21 Board of Directors meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Matt?
Sorry, Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Moving on to the treasurer's report, please.
Okay, so you'll see a couple of, whoops. This doesn't have the, Gary, somehow we got lost the text box on this slide.
Some formatting problems coming from,
We have the printouts.
does it have
What
it?
text
It has it on the printouts.
Okay.
are you, what text?
Okay, so you can see it on the printout?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Which-
maybe-
So wait, hold on. Text box might be down below, Matt, in the lower right corner.
No, there's one up above the top with the favorable.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Weird. Okay, it must have deleted it when
It may be when you printed it
Hold
to
on.
a PDF that the PDF format.
I
carry
didn't
through.
change that. So hold on, let me try something different here.
Yeah, if you pull up the actual PowerPoint, you'll see it.
The would be this one. There you go.
Yeah, you got somehow when you open it up, you got some formatting issues, but this will work.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so you see this summary slide now? That highlights the September. What's different in the display? A couple different things. Formerly, I had removed the actual projections for the months beyond the current month in the report, just showing the forecast budgeted numbers. But for the last quarter, experimenting with some changes to hopefully show the picture as we move towards the end of the year and the year-end closeout. So hopefully this makes a little more sense or is a little more clear, and I appreciate your feedback as we go through this or after. So net in September, as of September, you can see that 118,000 favorable. That's slightly down from last month based on budget execution. And the big picture, the delta that we have between budget and actual, that favorable 120,000, is largely because we are under executing in two budget line items, maintenance and capital projects. And what's going to happen between now and the end of the year is we will catch up in those budget categories and we will execute those monies. And that's why you see those actual and budget getting closer together towards the end of the year. They don't exactly overlap and get to zero because of that year-end issue with basketball refunds. We're reserving roughly 15K to account for that. So that's why they don't come back to net zero in this projection, and that'll be adjusted more closely as the end of the year approaches and those refunds either are processed or submitted or not. So now if you want to go to the revenue slide, you can see the same projection here, again, showing those last 3 months, just for now for some enhanced clarity. And then the highlight you see there is that we jump from favorable through the last 5 months to 24K unfavorable. And the reason is we pick up campground revenue forecast that's not actually happening because the campground's not open yet. So you can see the impact of that over the last quarter, for September, and over the rest of the year in the last quarter. That's that campground revenue line that did not previously exist. So now it's new, that maroon line. And you can see we go deeper in the hole on revenue over the course of the last 3 months. But it's green outlook because there is also no campground expense. We forecast campground expense. Those expenses will not be realized. So in the net, there's no significant impact. And we have a slight recovery in cumulative revenue in the other categories. So in the end, this is a favorable revenue projection with the caveat of the campground revenue. And if you look at the expense profile, you'll see the same thing. We added that red magenta column to show campground expenses. Again, we're going to be favorable. Those cumulative lines, again, up is favorable. So campground expense will be favorable by 48,000 by the end of the year to offset that unfavorable revenue. And again, what you can see is as of September, now we are strongly favorable to budget, 141,000 in expenses. That's again because we are under executing maintenance and capital projects. We will execute those funds or those expenses, and that's why you see that favorability dropping back towards zero over the course of the final quarter. So that's where that note, the Q4 outlook is. We're going to get capital and maintenance executed to close the gap for the full year forecast. And again, we're not going to see significant campground expenses realized in the fourth quarter. So now you look at the last is the fund balances. Again, to show here, we're on plan for September. We made some adjustments based on, and we talked about this last month, based on when we actually transact the budget or the fund transfers. They had previously shown in December. They don't actually transact until January, so that's highlighted here. We won't see any significant fund transfers through the last quarter, but we will be preparing to make those transfers in January, needed to put us on plan for 2023. So this is going to stay steady. I mean, with M&O being expended, but we'll stay on plan through the full calendar year, and then January we'll execute the fund transfers to boost the reserve fund where it needs to be for 2023. Okay, with that said, questions on any of those slides or comments or line items?
Just a question about the campground. That's a twice a year payment, correct?
Yeah.
So I know a payment is coming up. What other time of year?
So we just, I believe we just paid that, so 6 months ago. We would have at the end of it. I think it's like,
That makes sense. Every 6 months.
yeah.
Don't really see that represented in this graph.
Can you show me the chart data, please?
Expenses?
the, for the fund balances. Yeah, that's like. The
So-
light blue is the campground.
Okay, so the campground, okay.
It
Those are
stays-
different, so
it's-
that loan payment is M and O.
Okay,
Comes out of revenue.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Move to-
Okay, you want to go over the changes in the vouchers?
So most of the changes are gonna be, you can see down here at the bottom, we've got the, all the stuff to, for the employment security, Department of Labor and Industries, Department of Revenue, taxes, B&O tax. We have payroll tax that came in with the second payroll, deferred compensation plan, PERS that came in with payroll. Then we had, we paid Fremont Crystal Water for water service, Office Depot for some copy paper and other office supplies, Microsoft for some online services that we use with Microsoft Teams. Paid out for the canine, water and canine training classes. And did bi-monthly payroll. That was it. Those were the changes. Mostly associated with payroll, the second payroll. Any questions on that?
Can you scroll to the updated totals thing?
Getting there. There should be.
Yeah, so M&O new total is 84,565.99.
No
Okay,
other
any questions on the vouchers? Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers from the M&O fund for a total of 84,565.99.
I'll second.
Has been moved and seconded to approve the voucher list for the M&O fund. $84,565.99. All those in favor say aye.
Jake, I.
Krista, aye.
And I,
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the voucher list is approved.
I didn't get anything on wood chips. I got diamond dust. I didn't get anything on wood chips. It's not gonna be on this meeting.
I remember you kind of showed it to me.
Okay, staff report. So you can see here, we've got upcoming classes, little dribblers and drop-in pickleball. We've got numerous kinds of classes coming up. We've got increased drop-in pickleball offerings to 10 sessions a week for October and November. Some of those are in collaboration with Whidbey on the pickleball to help temporarily replace outdoor sessions that they had. Since we're the only entity that can currently reserve space in the gym at the community center, we've also brought back pickleball punch cards for players to get purchase to accommodate extra sessions. Currently in contact with the community soccer group and working to offer drop-in futsal. Waiting on response from the school district for gym space requests for adult volleyball and youth dodgeball. And we are accepting program proposals for January to April 2023 activities and classes.
How's the attendance on the drop-in?
Pickleball, good, really good. I mean, we saw a lot more wavering when it was outside. If it would be not as good weather, with it inside, it's pretty much standard. So it's been really good. Website visitations.
Just one more question about programs. Has air quality forced any, or are you seeing any decreases, people backing out, any instructors?
I
It
don't
hasn't
know.
really applied to anything, you know, because indoor pickleball, it's indoors now, and that's really the main thing right now, so far we're good.
So far, we've been okay, yeah, I haven't heard Sky mention it, there's been, we've had to cancel this because of, we haven't had to cancel anything, that I'm aware of for that reason. So website visitors, I didn't bring my glasses, there's no way I'm gonna be able to read this. So Sky puts this together for us so that we can see, the blue line is 2022, the orange line is 2021 for the same period, September 12th to October 11th. It's number of users, for our, what's this, is this our website, Sky?
Yes.
That's our website, so you can see our usage is up slightly, probably over the month there. So that's good news. Returning users, new users are bigger than returning users. Visited pages are the homepage, followed by pickleball, shocking, and parks and amenities. Facilities and grounds, we are in full fall soccer season and things are going well, still experiencing heavy drought conditions and it is making it a challenge. My understanding is that's about to change. We've been doing some minor turf renovation projects on the baseball fields and other areas around the park. Getting pricing on infield material and playground chips for delivery next month. We, for some reason, the playground chips fell through the cracks in the process, but we do have the infield material on the agenda tonight. Continued aeration and mowing, and we've flagged the two proposed trails. Max Welton Trail, the access trail to Max Welton Trails Park is the one that was already approved that the guys are getting ready to start on. The other one we'll talk about in the regular agenda. And I don't know, you haven't started work on those yet, have you? No. It's been a rough week. Most items for the director's report are in the regular agenda for the meeting, worked on budget, reviewed with commissioners as requested, met with the joint pool committee and we'll have a recommendation on a firm to proceed with on the design process, issued and received bids for the asphalt projects, coordinated with Kerry, Jim Nelson, and Pacifica to get the information put together to move forward on paying off the remainder of the bonds for the Max Welton Trail property purchase, and work with Davido and TMI to get the septic fields for the campground project located, and now working on getting Jimmy Berto and the county out for a site registration on that so that we can hopefully get through site plan review. That's kind of been my month, just chasing down those things. And then, like I said, in the workshop, our next month's meeting will start at 6 p.m. with the budget hearing. Again, that's for the public to make comments on the budget. And then we follow it immediately after we've taken all those comments with the regular board meeting. Any questions on the staff report?
No actual date on getting the county out for the campground yet?
We are still working to make sure that we want to do it one more time and not again. So we're trying to get exact maps of where everything is, have the county on board, have a data for them to come out, where Tom can be there with the mini. So yes, we are coordinating that information as we speak. I think Jimmy got the two maps he needed today. So.
And we need to know what we're testing for. Like, the big question is, what are we doing? One bathroom, two bathrooms, are we doing?
That's in the design, it's the size of the septic system.
So that's been the big thing, is we need to know what we're testing for.
Yeah, Jimmy should have gotten that today. So
Is that just getting the sanitarian out here?
Sanitarian, and then we dig holes and they check the soil quality. That's exactly.
2 holes per site, I think there's eight areas across that property.
So that's that. No, any other questions on the staff report? Okay.
All right, moving on to unfinished business, the comprehensive plan programs.
Hey, this was a busy one for me this month. Included in your board packet are the final lists for each of the grant programs we applied for this cycle. I can pull them all up. I'm going to go through them if you want to. The list showed the overall ranking of each project as well as the data behind the overall ranking score. So you can look through those and you can see where our projects were graded lower and higher, and we can then take that information and go back and go, okay, how could we have done this better? What more information do we need to get for 2 years from now when we go back at these grants, if we need to? this information will be used to review the applications and revise if we're not successful in getting funded. List goes to RCO board for final approval later this month. And I say approval, that means that they stamp the list as, yes, this is accurate, not yes, this is funded. Then we wait for the budget to be approved and how much money is actually allocated so we see how far down the list that money goes.
And when is that?
Generally, I think it's January by the time we get that, January or February. Okay.
Remember the state budget deliberations are in January. Usually it's the last week in January that we get the report out from the legislature.
Okay, so you all have those results in front of you. If you want me to go through some of them, I can, but it's pretty straightforward. I think when we looked at this, the one project that looked like it might have a chance in both its categories was the pickleball court project. The others, the athletic artificial turf field is very likely to be funded in youth athletic facilities. It was ranked 8th. The other projects were probably just below the line. So there we go. Aquatic Wellness Center. Let me go back to the memo. That's not the memo. And there. So the Joint Pool Committee held interviews with the 2 firms that sent in their qualifications for the design of the Aquatic Wellness Center, and we checked 3 separate references for both firms. This past week, a week ago Monday, we met and went through those references and talked about both firms. From that meeting, we are bringing forward a recommendation on the firm to proceed forward with the design process, and the recommendation was also brought to the foundation for their review. They've already gotten back to us and said they agree with the recommendation. The qualifications documents and the references for both firms have been included in your board packet, so you have those. The recommendation was to go, I will say this, I think every one of us agreed that both firms were eminently qualified, and if we had only gotten one, we would take either one. But the pretty much unanimous decision, I believe it was unanimous, was to proceed with ARC. And Matt and Eric can certainly comment on this. They were in that meeting. So the recommendation that I was directed to bring to the board was to proceed with contract negotiations with ARC and their group to start looking at a design process for this. What that would entail would be me reaching out to ARC and saying, we'd like to proceed with you. We need to see a proposal on how you would like to proceed, and then sit down with our joint pool committee to hammer out the details of what we want to see in that process, how public meetings, what kinds of input we want them to gather on this. So that is the recommendation of the joint pool committee, is that ARC be selected as the firm to move forward with contract negotiations. Matt, Eric, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can. And this is the comment that I made last month. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we did was go out and see and talk to the folks these guys had recently worked with, the municipalities and other entities. And Doug did these surveys that we got back that were gave us a bunch of good data. And then I went and visited 2 of the ARC sites. And the thing that was the most striking thing to me is they did 2 different projects with 2 completely different municipalities. One was in East Tacoma and one was in Port Angeles. Very similar size to us in the end. Tacoma or Port Angeles population is about 20 something thousand, and we're 17. And the East Tacoma population is similar. Obviously not the whole city, but the neighborhood that it serves. And in one case, they were asked to basically do everything. The community did not have any real starting point. They didn't know what they wanted. Really, they needed ARC to step in and do a lot of that work for them. And then the other case in Port Angeles had their design already finished, and they needed ARC to just come through and execute it, make it happen, be successful with it. And in both cases, ARC was able to flex to the needs of the customer. So they met Port Angeles where they needed them to meet, and they met East Tacoma in a completely different spot where they needed them to meet. So to me, that was the biggest selling point for me, was they were able to flex and build a relationship with the customer in those cases based on the unique needs of the customer, which to me was that told me what I needed to know to support them as the recommended firm.
Yeah, I would say ARC did a really good job gathering community input. They seem to know how to do that a little bit better than the other firm we looked at. It was made that it's hard to objectify certain things, but they were very personal in their delivery and how they went about working with other people and the feedback that came from other places. The other thing I would add is that one of the things that I still feel really strongly about is they were able to match the area, the aesthetics of the area with the design. And I think that's going to be one of the most critical things is pleasing everyone in the community. And it's a wide range of, people. So I just think ARC is a really good choice. But I would also say that the fact that it was unanimous says something. So everybody was on it.
Okay, so we would be looking for motion and second to move forward.
Yeah, just say take questions if anybody has specific questions about this firm or the other firm that proposed to us before we go forward with any kind of motion.
I have a question. So as far as the process goes, so then you negotiate with them, and just want to clarify that there's no obligation to get bids or quotes from any other, it's just such a large
This is
amount of money.
that's what's already been done. By doing the request for qualifications, we're selecting the firm. That's that process. So we don't need to do now a bid. We are selecting, this is a process where you select the most qualified firm as opposed to a bidding process. When we get to construction, we'll likely do bids on construction of this project. That's where it would run in. You want to get with this kind of a skill type process. You want it based on the skill and the ability of the firm, not who can do it the cheapest. So that's why you do a request for qualifications versus a request for a proposal.
And again, the next step is to have them quote, this is to expend the $400,000 that we were allocated in the state capital budget this year. So this would be to move forward with the selected firm to begin the design process using that money, which was allocated from the state for this purpose.
And the whole process may take more than the 400,000. Will likely take more than the 400,000.
Yes.
This
will.
is to have this firm be that firm, and then we would start with the 400,000, and then we get more money down the road that would go towards this process with this firm to continue that. Any other questions about this selection, this process?
Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the Aquatic Wellness Center design with ARC.
We'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to move forward with the Aquatic Wellness Center design with the ARC, Architecture Resource Collaborative. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay.
Matt, aye.
Sorry.
Matt, aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Okay, I'll get in touch with them tomorrow.
Right, Fields meeting update, please.
Okay, well, we didn't actually have a fields meeting, but we wanted to keep this on the agenda to keep this rolling through. I've been touching base with Sky and with Tom each day, and we have been continuing to work with the school district and the club on fields. Sky was able to secure the use of the elementary school field, as we talked about last month, to spread the fall season, to spread out the wear and tear on the fields, to accommodate all the activities we had requests for. So we do have a team over there working over there. There were some issues with overlap with groups, with the high school girls soccer team staying late on the sports complex fields, stating they were supposed to be off at 5 and they would stay after 5 and accommodate, and the club was having to move around and use other areas to accommodate them. We have now dealt with that and talked with Paul at the school. We talked with John, because Paul was off at the school district, and that was taken care of. But so far, the season's gone relatively smoothly, and we're starting to get to the point where they're getting close to shutdown. A couple weeks out. 27th of October is their last U6, U8, U10 practice. So far smoothly, and then at the end of October, Sky's going to reach out to the club for spring, and I would suggest we reach out to Little League as well and touch base with them and get ahead of this so that they don't post stuff on their website and schedule everything in a 1-hour block from 5 to 6 and 4 days a week and monopolize the entire facility for that hour so that we're not overwhelmed. So that's where we are. We're going to continue that conversation with them at the end of this month, and we'll go from there. Sky, Tom, any comments?
Yeah, from my perspective, when we look, I think I went over and counted parking stalls available. We have 132 or something like that with the pickleball area. And so.
Exclusive?
No, including the pickleball area.
Yeah, but because there's 4 pickleball courts, that's taken another 20 or some stalls. And so, I mean, when you look at, we've got 300 kids playing soccer, plus the high school, plus pickleball, plus people who should be able to come in and walk their dog or go for a walk. We need to start telling the soccer club, you guys gotta spread out. And me personally, I don't think it's right that we had to move the U13 select team to the school, and the school team's over on our facility, clogging the whole thing up. And I think we really need to continue to talk about our policy and where the priority is, because the school needs to utilize their facility. That's the best view, especially going into the winter and early spring. And so, if we have 300 kids up there, we need to say, okay, these teams have got to go from 4 to 5 or 4 to 5:30, and these guys got to go from 5:30 to 6 because there's no parking. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous up there. Saturday, I'm actually in Hawaii trying to vacation. I'm getting a call on Saturday when they had all the U6, U8 or U8 games that the toilets have overflowed and we've got alarms going off. There's too much use. It's like it's everybody has to have the prime time, and so that facility, that restroom facility alone, is not built to handle the volume that it's getting. And so I know that those are the nicest fields and everybody needs to be on them, but they're loving it to death.
Well,
You know what I mean?
the issue, I mean, the one thing I would say is I would agree with Tom on the school district using their own fields would be really nice. That would help a little bit, but the bigger problem is we've got 300 kids in a facility that can't accommodate 300 kids all at once. We don't have them all there at once. Usually it's, 100, I think it was 170 and 130, 140, something like that. But that's a lot of kids. And then when you think about that and go, that's 170 kids in that facility, and yes, we do need to stagger them. And so what we had talked about when Sky and I talked with the soccer club president and another board member, we basically said, look, you got to advertise this next spring it's your practice will be sometime between 4 and 7 p.m. It will start either at 4, at 5, or at 6. and it will run for, that's what you get. And I suggest that they just do a draft, and you have your coaches all show up one day and you pick your times. And if you have 10 coaches at a certain age level, U6, U8, you number them, you pull a number out of a hat, 1 through 10, and 1 picks first, and it goes all the way down to 10, and 10 picks last, and then 10 picks first, and then 1 picks last. So if you get the first pick, you get the last pick. If you get the middle pick, you get your picks right in a row, and then you can just go home. But it then makes it so that here's the available times that you can hold practice, period. And you might be at your prime time, 5 o'clock on Monday in practice 1, and you might be Thursday at 4 or Friday at 3. Whatever you want to do, whatever's available. But that makes it even and above board. And then when you're advertising it to the public, you're saying your practice time will be sometime between 4 and 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. Done.
Think you get too amicable in place with the soccer association?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, and they definitely listened, and after having the conversation with them, I mean, they did send an email out to some of the older groups saying like, hey, if you can carpool, if you can drop off and not hang out, everything we can do to try and make it so we're not clogging up. We know with like the U6 and U8, you're gonna get, you know, sometimes multiple sets of parents and grandparents and everybody that's parking out there, they have lawn chairs, like, but, you know, they did what they could do with that one.
It's not one car per kid,
Yeah.
you know, it's multiple. And then, you know, they have 4 pickleball games on top of that.
Yeah.
And the bottom's already full and flowing up into the regular parking lot, so, you know, I think that we had an earlier meeting up there, you know, and it was like, well, all I see is soccer people, and I said, well, there's 40 or 50 Frisbee players that we had to shut on the other side because there's no room.
Right.
Like, we don't want cross usage if possible. They'd rather be up there, but we felt except for weekends, they go up. And then we've got the pickup game going 2-3 times a week on top of that as the kids are rolling out. So it is mass use. I mean, in the way that the numbers have gone up, if we go to 350 kids next year, there's no way. Something's got to give. So.
Discussion of school districts we had most recently is one start time, one bus, as opposed to multiple bus routes. And so that's going to change the dynamics of that. If school starts later, that'll mean parents, students want later practices, and you know, just something to think about. That's going to become, it won't get easier. It'll get a little bit more.
Well, and if the school practices for their own teams go later, we might not be able to accommodate them. Because quite frankly, based on our current policy, they would get first choice after us, right? Our programs come first, then school district programs, then youth sports associations in the priority. So I would advocate for changing that to, we're Parks and Recreation, we're not school athletics. So in my mind, the Youth Athletic Association should be second. And yes, the school district should not have to pay for use of our fields, but if we're talking about choosing between having a school JV and varsity soccer team on our fields from 5 to 6, because now they're done school at, you know, they usually practice 3 to 5, but now they want to practice 3:30 to 5:30. Well, that eats right into that main prime hour of 5 to 6. And you know that there's going to be a conflict there. And for 10 years, I've told the school teams, you have to be off our fields by 5. We can't accommodate you after that because we've just got too much. Back then was 100 kids in the program and we couldn't accommodate them 5 to 6. So there is.
I think you'll be able to pull it off. I just, because we have less kids in the district now as well. And I'm reflecting back on it, when we had U13 and 12, we left right after school, and the parents were okay with that. The kids played after school, which enabled that 5 o'clock to be wide open, and that worked better for families. I know there's resistance, and some people say, well, I have no way to get a child there, but past experience has shown that can take place.
It can happen.
And it's close enough that the kids can physically walk there as well, you know. So I don't think it's not doable.
I don't think it's, I think it's highly doable, and I think it's something that we're going to work with them on. I'm I'm definitely looking at all of these as options, but I think we do need to, as Tom says, review our policy on that and kind of look at what's our priority, because we have to implement that policy as it's given to us. So right now, if I got a request and I got school district and soccer club and they both want 5 to 6, I have to take care of the school district before I take care of the soccer club. That's how our policy is written. School district is second in priority to our programs. So
And if I recall, they don't have likewise.
they don't do it for us as well. Let's be clear though. We do right now get access to the community center gym, which is, well, it's not a school facility anymore, but we pay for that. But we are the only entity that can use that. So there is some of that, and we do get the gyms for free, but we don't get priority over everybody else in the world in the gyms at the school. So some thoughts to think about and a discussion we should have.
This winter would be a great time to go through that policy with fine tooth comb. Just this last week, I had a new guy on the upper private workout. This guy went and talked with him. First thing he said, well, I'm not charging anything. I mean, that's becoming the standard answer. We've got way too many people doing illegal stuff that we know about. It's really frustrating. I mean, the coaches that are over there 3 days a week getting paid. So I really am. That's a gift to public funds. We don't.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Asphalt projects.
So we issued a bid for the asphalt projects as we had discussed at the September board meeting. We received 2 bids. One from Island Asphalt and Site Work in the amount of $34,950. The other was from Craig Construction. It was $38,000. It was also included in your board packet. There's $32,065.25 remaining in the budget that was allocated for these projects. Additionally, there is $2,000 allocated toward garbage cans and benches that staff recommends be reallocated to these projects. That would be a total of $34,065.25, so we'd be short less than $900 for the total projects. Staff would recommend approval of the base bid and just make that up in other line items as we go. This does not include this includes the 3 projects we talked about. Let me pull up the bid. So this includes sorts of stuff in the bid. Look at that. Okay. That's Island Asphalt. Yeah. No. So this includes the overlay of 250 feet by 20 feet from the south entrance. That's the high school edge entrance speed bump to the second speed bump in there. So from speed bump to speed bump on that roadway going back towards the playground. It's speed bump to speed bump, full width, 5,000 square feet approximately. It includes an overlay from the totem pole area by the playground and the existing path, overlay of 90 feet along the playground along the existing path from the totem pole towards the skate park. And then new pavement, 215 feet by 8 feet from the existing path around the backside of the skate park at a full 2-inch compacted depth. So all of those together, $34,950. And you can see from this that Island Asphalt and Site Work did not give us a bid for the alternate. The other Craig Construction did, and if I remember right, it was over $100,000. $107,478. So we did that to kind of get a ballpark. We got a ballpark. We know what ballpark we're in. So when you asked about the asphalt work for next year, it wouldn't be that in that $46,000, $36,000. So staff does recommend approval of this. With the 2 items we have, we are at $34,065. So we're short just under $900, but we feel that these projects and getting them done would be of much more benefit now than to wait and redo this bid later on. It's going to go up in cost, not down.
when would the work begin?
The overlay of the road would happen ASAP. That's a larger part of this, so that one would be done first. And then we have some site work. We have to cut out some asphalt, remove that, do a little bit of grade work around the backside of the skate park. So in November.
And just whether,
On the overlay of the existing road, it does matter. I talked with Kurt, just for my sanity, like, how quick do I need to get the dirt work portion done? And he said, I'm not worried about that, we can do that, a couple of dry days in the fall or the winter, we're good. But the road overlay, he wanted to do ASAP.
So ASAP being November.
I guess we'll notify tomorrow.
We'll notify tomorrow if this is approved,
Scheduling.
and then,
Yes.
and as soon as he can schedule us, I'm sure he'll schedule us in. He's got a little bit of a tie to this park, so he likes to take care of us.
Right. Part of it.
So, yes, it would be as soon as possible for that, and then the secondary would be good. Any other questions on the bid?
On that part of the road that goes up alongside of where the camping will be, is that impacted at all by campground construction?
Should not be.
A separate,
We're creating a separate access, yes.
I was just thinking about as you go down that road, you know, construction vehicles going up the area that you're asphalting currently.
No, I would think there would be access. Gravel section.
The gravel section until we get a final road put
It
in
would
there.
be a shame to do, you know, nice work.
Well, like we talked about with the asphalt up in the sports complex, if we're gonna do that whole asphalt area up there and then we're putting in a sports turf field in a year and a half, why would we do that asphalt? Any other questions? Okay. Staff recommends approval of the bid from Island Asphalt and Site Work in the amount of $34,950.
I'll make a motion to approve the asphalt in the amount of $34,950.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Island Asphalt and Site Work bid in the amount of $34,950. All those in favor say aye.
Jake, aye.
Chris, aye.
Eric,
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries.
So this is a line item in case the board wanted to have us address anything specific in the budget and make a change. This is where you could direct us to do that. Since there was nothing in the, there's no action that can be taken in a workshop meeting, it has to be taken in a regular session. This is a line item for that action. So if the board wanted to say, Doug, we want you you and Carrie to go back and rework the entire admin section of the budget and add this, this, and this, and this would be where we would do that. So if there's any direction from anyone on the budget, I would take that now.
For instance, what figure you want to go in as the levy amount?
We already put that in as 1.828 for the purposes of what we're looking at, but
Do you need it additionally?
no, because it's already in. We don't need a change. We've put that in.
Wait, what figure did you just say?
1.828,
So the 15%?
15% is what we presented to them. If they wanted us to change that, it's about change from what we did in the workshop. You want us to change something.
Well, I know. Yes.
I don't know what you're asking.
So, okay, so the figure that we put into this budget, our working operating budget,
That's not this process. This process is for our budget that we send to the county for final approval. That process, that internal process, does not need any approval. There's no there. There's nothing that we need to approve there. The board could just say, yeah, we like the 1 point, we can wait until we get the number and go, that's the number we're gonna put in. Because that document is internal, it needs no approval.
this one that we're working on right here. budget?
The budget spreadsheet that you talk about, that's internal, that does not need approval.
Right,
So to say what number we're putting in that, we don't need that approval.
okay, so in the past, if I recall correctly, in the past, we put what we actually anticipated in this budget spreadsheet that we're working on. In the budget narrative and the certification that we sent to the county, that is where we would put the inflated figure.
Yes,
So,
but we don't need a figure approved for that. We've talked about putting the 1.59.
okay, so this is what's gonna be our budget to actual though. The spreadsheet is.
For next year, yes. I'm confused, I don't know what the question is. They don't need to approve anything for that document. Right, the narrative they're approving in November. There's
And
nothing
we are anticipating seeing the 1828898.
in that. The spreadsheet is our internal document. We can decide that, there's
Okay.
no motion that
I
needs.
guess you don't wanna see it with a more conservative figure, that's fine, I just wanna make sure that,
We can decide that on our own and
Because
bring that back to them. That's not this process. This process is the budget narrative for November.
Okay.
We're not deciding that process right now. That I know where you're going, but it's two separate horses running down the road here. They're running in parallel, but it's two separate horses. We don't need to worry about the other one right now.
I'm just making sure, okay, so this, okay, I just wanna make sure I understand, because last year, of course, was my first time and everything, and it's still sort of my first time. So, the figures that we put into our budget to actual, our accounting system,
Our spreadsheet, yes.
is what I get from this spreadsheet that we
Correct.
are working on.
Mhm.
So this spreadsheet that we're working on, are we gonna have in our budget to actual the higher, which is not what we did last year?
We're not doing that.
Okay,
That does not need to match the number we send to the county.
no, I understand that.
So we're sending,
We don't send this to the county.
we do not send this to the county. We send
So-
the budget narrative, which will have the 1.828 in it,
Right,
okay? That's all we're talking about right now. The spreadsheet is an internal document that's for our purposes only. We then can say 1.59, or if we get a number back from them that's lower than that, we can say 1.49,
And
whatever
the-
that number is.
and the reason that we're putting that number into this spreadsheet right now, the higher inflated
That
number,
was just put in
It's
there
just-
to show them.
is just, okay. So this will change at some point. and
That
what
will
we
likely
actually
change
do.
tomorrow, because we'll bring it back down for our use. But once we finish the narrative, that's what we will bring back.
Right.
They won't
That I
even,
understand.
the spreadsheet will not even show up next month at the board meeting. It will just be the narrative. Okay? Any other questions?
We ask for absolutely as much as
But
we
I
can.
don't know to start, I
And
totally get that. I guess it just tripped me up that we're putting it into this spreadsheet, that inflated figure. But if that's fine, we're all in agreement that
Yeah, no.
that's not what,
That's not what's gonna be in there by the time we get through this process, which is a different process.
yes.
Any other questions or directions on the budget? No, we can move on.
All right, moving on to new business.
Okay, so Trails Committee met again on the 13th of October, and we discussed the two trail projects for winter. The already approved Max Wilton Trails Park Access Trail, the staff was supposed to have begun work this week, but we've had staffing issues. So, we are holding on that for right now. But that will be an access trail that I will show you in a moment, and that has already been flagged. And we will be starting work on that as soon as we can. That will give us access from the road to the old log road trail that's on the property, so that will get us access from the road in. The other trail that we flagged, it was talked about in a previous meeting, and we'd been approached by a number of users at Trustland for this, is the ADA loop trail. A lot of the concerns we were having on that was that horse traffic was gonna be on there with pedestrians that might be less mobile, pedestrians that might have walkers, people with wheelchairs on that trail, and could damage the trail surface, as well as having horse traffic and bike traffic interacting on that trail was probably not a great idea. More mobile people that would be on the other trails can probably get out of the way of a horse and give them more space, whereas somebody on an ADA trail may not be able to. So what we had done is we had created this proposed trail as a bypass to create a full loop for somebody going on a bike or on a horse that would not require the use of the ADA trail as part of the loop. So let me pull up those two. So you can see here on the left, this would be the access trail here to Max Walton Park, Max Walton Trails Park. It would start at the roadway and go down the 60-foot easement that we have, and then go into the park, staying at least 50 feet away, but this is as flagged. Would stay 50 feet away at least from the property line. And then on the easement, it stays inside the 60-foot easement, so we really don't have a lot of leeway there. That's already been flagged, and that's as flagged. Austin sent me these pictures from his Hunter's GPS. Okay, so that is one that was already approved. We talked with the Trails Committee. They said, yep, go ahead. We're gonna try and walk in and walk to the back, maybe work from somewhere in here, from wherever we can get to in here, and work backwards to here, and then come back to this point and work out to the road.
And this is meant,
This will,
but like the old log road, like a bigger.
it'll be a full wide trail like we
Full
create.
wide trail so
6
that,
foot.
6
that
foot.
we can get in there if there's
Correct.
an emergency and get into other things and do maintenance and,
Yep.
okay.
It'll match what we have in this park.
In this park, and trust me.
It'll be 6 feet wide, we can drive our Cushman utility vehicle in there. And the way it's flagged right now is actually minimum of 100 feet.
Property line. Okay, so that's Max Walton Trails Park. The board already approved us to go ahead on that. We had already gotten clearance from Island County on all of that stuff. This trail is not short enough that it will not need any kind of permitting that we can see. The area is already very clear. There's very thin trees in that area, but there's a way through. This you can see here is the actual ADA loop. Raven Ridge Trail comes up this way along the property line. And then the roadway goes off here. And this trail would connect into Raven Ridge as Raven Ridge comes up this way. So it is flagged. It would come along out through the woods and back into the parking lot. What that does, and I don't know if I actually put it in the file folder here, I probably. No, I did not. Let's get it. I can get it quick as I sent it. Yep. Yep. So it goes from here, comes up, over and in. Okay, so it's on the eastern side of the property, the northeast corner, and what it does is creates that loop. It goes all the way around, and then horse traffic could be directed here to have no access, so that they would have to turn and come out this way. But we could basically do a bike horse loop on the outside and have this be pedestrian. It'd say, horse traffic here this way, horse traffic here this way, and this would all be kind of reserved for pedestrians only.
And horses and bikes either like do the full loop
Mm-hmm.
or they do an out and back.
Or they do an out and back, or they come down here and they go around this way and come back around. They just have two ways to get out, as well as and do they could do the full wide loop, they could do a smaller loop, they could do multiple figure eights, whatever they want to do, but they have two access points, as well as, and they don't have to there's no need for them to use the ADA trails with horses or with bikes. And personally, I'm less worried about horses and bikes impacting the trail. It's pretty well packed. I'm more worried about horses coming up to somebody in a wheelchair, horses coming up to somebody with a walker, and having issues there. Because I know how dumb horses can be. Because I live with them. So that's the proposed trail. We would, at this point, we're down a staff member, so we don't know when we can get to it at this point anyways, but if you direct us that, yeah, that looks good, go ahead. You know, I would say we could probably have it done in a day or two. The one thing that I know that came up in our trails meeting was we wanted to look at keeping it cleaned up as we go. I've talked with Tom about that. I know Matt had mentioned the idea of carting the plant materials out and getting them out of off-site. That's really not practical. Talking with Tom and talking through it, we looked at it and we're like, well, if we pull out, you know, wood and ferns and stuff, they're natural. We should keep them in the habitat. If we can, maybe move them off to the side. But my thought was we look at doing more of a cleanup at the end of the day, make sure everything's looking nice when we go, as nice as it can. Trying to cart all the material out of both of these sites. So in looking at, let me pull up the other ones. So first off, in looking at this one, once we truck in with the mini excavator, we leave it there overnight and we don't bring it out. So to truck stuff out of there is not practical. And then if we do truck it out of there, what do we do with it? We can't really have a burn pile anywhere, and we don't really want to burn that material. So it's natural material. If we can just dispose of it nicely off to the sides on the site and make sure we're cleaning up as we go, I think that's about the best we're going to be able to do. You know, the thing I thought of that maybe we might be able to do is if there's some smaller logs that we're cutting out of the way, we might be able to load that in the back of a mini cart of some sort, cut it up and leave it for people in the parking lot if they want to pick it up as firewood. But that's adding extra labor when that's also habitat that you could just move off to the side, and you know, the smaller bugs and animals might take that as habitat and create a habitat out of it. It's a question of how much, you know, I don't know what we could do with the material that we bring out. The smaller brush and stuff, we do have that flail mower that we could bring in to just chew it up, and then it just becomes mulch, you know, duff. So that's what we would do with that stuff, but I'm talking like bigger logs and stuff is where we would do that. And I think just using that flail mower and cleaning up as we go is going to be a lot cleaner. And then just looking at what we can do to minimize impact as we go, like we always do.
The trust land one is very open and airy. There's not going to be much debris at all. It's the one across the street is the one that's going to have a lot of underbrush, very thick, with a lot of blowdown. So, you know, generally blowdown areas, and I basically, most of that stuff is already starting to rot. It's not firewood really or much of anything generally. Pitch it as you go. And so we're kicking it out as far as we can, and it lays on the ground, and I mean, it's gone.
You know, usually, so they think you should grab it with the mini and put it off to the side.
And like in the back of trust land, I mean, as we went, I was
And they took.
and I'd say 90% of them took, you know,
So, yeah, and it's not going to look perfect, obviously, and we're gonna once we dig it out, we're gonna have to come back and regrade. So there's going to be transitional time as we work on these, but we'd be happy to entertain them. I'd like to have you guys entertain a motion to move forward on the trust land connector, because that just connects us to the parking lot and it avoids that ADA trail. I think the benefits of it are huge, and I think we can get that done fairly quickly. You know, if the board wants to wait, that's the board's prerogative. It's up to you guys.
So that current blue hashed loop, that's currently already there is the ADA.
This is the ADA trail.
And then the new blue hash connects the parking lot to Ravens Ridge.
Right.
And then we can specifically keep the ADA.
Correct. So this.
Make sure I'm on the same page.
Yeah, so that, come on, open, there we go. So that loop that I did, that's the ADA loop.
Right.
So when you look at that, you're basically looking at, oh my gosh, going through different screens. That's a GPS unit's version of that, okay? This is the GPS of the flagging, which should connect.
That's the new multi-purpose
Right.
connector.
Should connect the parking lot to about here.
have some decent signage saying how this is.
Well, that's, yes, once we get it in place and established, we will redo all of our signage. I'm gonna have to go out there and GPS map it with the GPS system, get it to the county, get it on the plot. But eventually what we'll do is we'll have signage up there that says, you know, pedestrians only beyond this point, or hikers only, bikers and horse traffic, bikers and horse traffic.
Should we give any consideration to putting 2 posts in like there are over by the school where it comes to the trail? So like if we were to put, you know, a couple of posts in so that,
Oh, you mean in the middle of the trail?
yeah,
Just put a post like a barrier so that
yeah,
makes
like
it
there
more
are when
difficult?
you go over by the school, how there's those
We could do that.
2 posts in the
Yeah.
trail that kind of like, they
Well,
would hope would give people pause.
that creates us from going through there too.
Yeah, but you
Why
can,
would they have to? I mean, why can't it just be a hole with, right, that's lined and they
a bollard,
pull out?
put a bollard in with a post. We could.
It's a thought, it's just a thought.
I think the horse usage over there is fairly low.
The horse usage is over there is generally this lady right here.
Yeah, and I think,
Right, but I actually saw a woman pull in
Sure.
this past weekend with her full-on rig and it
Sure.
was like,
And,
Yeah.
you know, and if we're making a trip for them, then I think we're saying,
I think,
you're welcome, please come.
yeah.
well, yeah, it's basically horse access only. Here.
Well, you know,
That's your access.
I would make it horse and bicycle, although I don't know that bicycles would want to use, there's not a lot of excitement there for a mountain biker to want to go in there, but I would say pedestrian only and then horse traffic on those other 2 and leave it at that. But we're not going to sit there and prohibit bicyclists from coming in. The one thing I would say from my perspective is what we might need to look at doing down the road is removing the hitching post that we have there and relocating it because it's not in a very good location for tying your horse on.
That was the first thing installed out there. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
When I put in.
Yeah, I would say my wife and I have been in there and she being the horse person that she is goes, that's really in a horrible spot. I'm like, yeah, it really doesn't make any sense to put it there, but you know, we can look at options. Let's get the trail done first. Huh? Get another comment? Oh,
If any of the commissioners want to open for public comment.
I would entertain a motion to reopen public comment on the trail discussion.
as you said, enter.
He said you entertain.
Oh. I will make a motion to reopen public discussion on
Trustland Trail.
on the Trustland Trail.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to reopen public comment for the Trustland Trail. Do we have any public comment for the Trustland Trail?
Yes, indeed, and thank you, commissioners, for your.
Hang on a second, Mr. Bush, we need to vote on the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Matt. Yes, we need to vote. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Jake,
Krista, aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we are open for public comment on the Trustland Trail.
Mr. Bush.
Thank you very much. I apologize for jumping the gun there. And commissioners, thank you very much for this consideration. I know it's above and beyond the call. Recalling previous concerns about equestrian use of the ADA trail, this seems like a remarkable, good resolution separating those uses for the benefit of all. I am not an equestrian myself, nor am I ADA, at least not yet. but your care and consideration of the multiple uses of this property is well considered, and I'm very grateful that you've come to such a wonderful resolution for mitigating the impacts of adverse use and making multiple use possible. I would only say that as in the past, we certainly are mindful of the importance of habitat and the minimization of environmental impact of trail building. What I would say as far as removing debris from the trail construction, my experience is that on-site chipper dispersed and blown materials really is the best use for those, and they don't necessarily need to be removed if you have the equipment to do that. Again, thank you for taking this comment. I think this answer and plan is inspired.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bush, and public comment is now closed. I would entertain a motion to, for the trust and That's all we need to
Jen, I'll
do.
make-
We just need to approve the Trustland Trail because the Max Welton one was already approved. We just need to approve the Trustland.
Jen, I'll make a motion to move forward with the Trustland Trail construction as shown in the attachment.
And I will second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve
No, go ahead,
the
sorry.
trail project for the Trustland Trail.
It's just smoky, I'm sorry. It's really smoky, sorry.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to approve the proposed Trustland.
Jake,
Matt, aye.
Aye, all those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion passes. All right, moving on to the property purchase bond payoff resolution.
So, great news. Carrie and I have been communicating with Jim Nelson, at DA Davidson, and our bond attorney Pacifica to prepare to pay off the bonds we issued for the Max Welton Trail property purchase. So we currently have about $221,000 of remaining grant funds available and allocated towards this purchase.
221 or 211?
I don't know,
10,000 is reserved for the,
signage.
Okay.
Signage. We had set aside 10,000 already. So we had set aside 10,000 of that, but 211. We heard from the bank that funded the bonds going off the amortizations from the closing schedule. There's a payment of $78,175.52 due on 12/1 of this year. That will be paid by the levy that was associated with the bond that was done. So we have that money. That should be covered, no problem. After that payment, the balance will be $156,270.24. We have $211,000 in grant funds. We will pay off with this resolution. The board will direct us to pay off the remainder of those bonds, thereby negating the need for the levy for the years of 2023 and 2024.
So we're not short.
We're not short.
Got it.
We're not short. We have the money. We are not short. We will pay off the entire thing. There will be nothing left. We are also already notified the county assessor of our intent to do this, and they said just let them know so they won't collect those taxes next year. And that's fine. We can do that, and we'll find out if there's anybody else we need to inform of that.
Okay, so just one more time around the tree.
One more time around the tree. Ready? Okay.
We are done as of the end of this year. We will not be using any of our new levy funds in 2023.
So there's two different things. Our
Yeah,
maintenance
this
operations
is not the M and O levy.
So this is not coming out of our regular levy. This is a bond issue that we did. There's tax levy dollars that go to repay those bonds that were issued by a bank to pay for it. So the bank issues a bond for the whole amount. We pay it off. It's like a loan. We pay it off each year. tax dollars come in to pay off that bond because the taxpayers, the constituents voted for that to happen, okay? Those tax dollars coming in this year amount to 78,000 and change. 75.52. That will pay this year's payment on the bond. That payment goes December 1st of this year. The remainder after that is $156,270.24. We will then, working with the county treasurer or however we end up, we've already reached out to the county treasurer, we will pay that off using the grant funds, and that whole levy then, next year, our taxpayers will not pay that. So we asked them for money. We said, hey, if you give this to us, we're gonna buy this property. When the grant comes in, we're gonna pay this off. We're following through on that promise with this resolution. Yes?
That was it.
I didn't, what you just said,
Mhm.
wasn't that written in the map?
Because I like to use big, long sentences and lots of words.
So the money will come
Well, so,
from the capital fund?
yeah, just one point of
I thought I
confusion is
understood
that
it. I don't know.
we talk about bonds and we talk about M&O levy. So the word levy is applied to all of these repayments, whether it's M&O or it's a bond repayment. So that's one point of confusion as we say levy. Levy and levy are the same thing. They're levying this, this need to pay on the public. These are two separate buckets. One is our standard M&O levy. This is what we would call a supplemental levy to pay for this particular property, right? And so the reason why why we are able to pay this in total is because the public has been paying for this for, up to the tune of $80,000 worth. So the public has already repaid $80,000 worth of this 20-year bond. And now that we've got the RCO revenue, we can pay the rest of it and lift that levy requirement from the public. Doesn't touch anything associated with our M&O levy. It's the supplemental levy to repay the bond.
And just for clarity, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. This is not a 20-year levy for a bond issue. This is a 5-year levy for a bond issue.
Oh, sorry, I said 20.
Yeah, this will be 5. This is year 3 of 5. So this year's tax levies for this bond issue will pay off year 3. We will pay off years 4 and 5, and we'll be done. And the taxpayers will have that lifted from the rolls.
There will still remain one bond that we will be continuing to pay off, which is probably a 20-year.
That's before I was here, so that's at least a 20-year bond.
So that, we'll have one of our bonds paid off.
No,
that's
campground property was grants.
That was from our big.
The 1.6.
Yeah. And we'd have to look and see when that's it, but this pays off.
So funds will come out of the capital fund, and it will either go to the bond fund or maybe directly to the bank. We're still figuring that part out, but.
So we had talked at various points,
Mhm.
from the very beginning,
Mhm.
right? One of the reasons that we did it as a 5-year was to make sure that we took care of it before we hopped in to pool and all of that. We also talked about that it would be really nice to bring it to the attention of the taxpayers that it is paid off early, so there will be a press release.
Oh, yes, there will be.
Thank you.
And I actually had Kira contact me last month when we had it on the agenda and ask if she could talk to me about it. And I said, let's wait a month. So that I can talk to you about it and go, hey, we actually did it and here's what's going to happen and it's going to be gone. Because we were still doing the calculations at that point. So, but yes, staff would highly recommend approval of resolution, and I want to say it's 2022-08. Yes, 2022-08.
Any further discussion?
Do you have that here?
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2022-08.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2019,
No,
sorry, 2022 dash 08 to provide for the early repayment of the district's unlimited tax general obligation bond issued pursuant to resolution 2019-06 for the purpose of financing the acquisition, development, and improvement of certain real property for recreational use at McWelton Trails.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
All right, and it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2022-08, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District, Adams County, Washington, providing early repayment of the district's unlimited tax general obligation bond issued pursuant to resolution 2019-06 for the purpose of financing the acquisition, development, and improvement of certain real property for recreational use. Sure. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion passes.
All right. And yes, I
I
will.
think we need some Catawba juice. Feels like a big deal. It's non-alcoholic sparkling wine.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what the purpose of that is. Thank you. I will be reaching out to our reporter at the Record as soon as I can with that decision. Finally,
The Diamond Dust Infield Mix quote.
so talked about this in the staff report. We've secured a quote on Diamond Dust Infield Mix. The amount is $7,833.60, including taxes. And they are a sole source. It's the same stuff we always get. It's a pain in the butt. It's the only place we can get it. There's sufficient funds available in the budget line item for the purchase, and staff recommends approval. And I do have the quote here if you wish to see it.
And back to the treasurer's report, this helps our under-executed maintenance budget line item.
It's that time of year. Any questions on this?
I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Diamond Dust infill material quote in the amount of $7,833.60.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the quote in the amount of $7,800.60.
Kirk, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion passes.
And that is all I have. Sky, would you mind flipping the lights on? That is all I have for the board at this time. If the board has anything else, we can discuss it at this time.
Anyone? All right. The October Board of Directors meeting is adjourned at 8:15.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Feel better.
See you, Matt.
All right, thanks.